20% of your efforts makes up for 80% of your results. This is called the Pareto Principle, or it's also known as the 80-20 rule. But in practice, this also means that we can achieve more by doing less, by just following this simple principle. So in today's video, I'll go over how we can apply this to our Etsy print-on-demand stores. If you're new here, my name is Andreas, and I've done over $1 million in revenue in less than 3 years as an Etsy print-on-demand seller from Sweden. So first off, what even is the 80-20 rule? Well, basically, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's that you make 1,000 designs. So you make these 1,000 designs, and these are 1,000 different products on Etsy, for instance. Then the Pareto Principle states that 20% of these listings will actually garner sales. So 20% of 1,000 is 200. So 200 of these listings will at least have one sale, approximately around there. That's the 80-20 rule. It honestly affects our stores heavily, and basically, in my opinion, any type of business endeavor heavily as well. And the reason for that is that no matter how much we try, no matter how much hard we work on stuff, it's still like this small percentage of our efforts that actually generate everything and all the successful results that we have, which is crazy if you think about it. I mean, you can put up so much stuff, but it's still like the small percentage that make or break us. And how we can actually apply this to Etsy is that in the beginning, we all have to try stuff. We all have to test out designs to find our actual winners. But the most important thing that I've spent so much time talking about is that I've mentioned it in so many videos, but it's so important to double down. And what I mean when I say doubling down is that we only focus on the 20% that actually works. We focus on the 20% of designs that work. We focus on the 20% of niches that work really well. We focus on basically the 20% of strategies that we're actually moving forward in. Because if we just take a look at my Amazon merch page here, we can learn a lot by just watching this. So I'm in tier 4,000. I have 1,849 designs up. I have 25,477 live products, because when you put a design on top of a product, it can be applied to 14 products. Now that they've added tumblers, it's basically 15 products, I think. But basically, those are the products that one design refers to. But if we just look at this here, 898 listings of 25,477 listings actually have results, actually have sales basically. And this is even less than 20%. And that's what I want to get into next, because it's actually, in my experience, it's been almost always like this, at least with print on demand. It's actually 20% of the 20% that actually carries us. So basically it's says 3.5, but it's basically 4% of our total efforts made is actually the things that gives us all the money. And don't forget, one listing on Etsy, for instance, or one listing on Amazon can generate all the revenue that we want. But we need to actually get to that specific listing first. And the only way to get to the 20% of listings, or the 20% of the 20%, so the 4% of listings that actually carries us, is to have high volume. That's been my experience. Just test as much as humanly possible to actually find the winners. But as we test and we find something, it's so important to always take a step back, not just do more, but once we actually have some success, just take a step back, basically just look at the thing that is actually selling. And once the type of design style, for instance, sells, if you're in the beginning stages, if you have 3 sales with one type of design style, or you have 10 sales and 3 sales of those 10 sales is one design style, go all in on that specific design style and scale it out to as many niches as possible. Or if you're in specific niches that you're doing very well in, let's say that you are super versed into the sports niche, sports type of design, like basketball designs or something like that, then go all into the big broader niche, which is sports, and apply your design into the specific niche that you found success in. Or if you found success within the nurse niche, but in no other niche as well, with one type of design, then go all in on nurses and scale your design out to every single sub niche or every type of nurse there is, to make sure that you actually focus on the 20% that actually work. Now, all the designs that you will put up in this specific niche won't always work, but it will be easier to find them because you've still narrowed down testing to this specific 20% that works. But the next step of this whole thing is to find just the 4% of all your efforts that will carry your whole store. But it's so much easier to find those 4% instead of focusing on super broad and going ham in every direction like I did in the beginning. So for instance, I did like 500 listings a month on Etsy when I started, and that just prolonged the whole process for me. If I were doing it smart this time around, I would just go into the tracks where I've actually gained traction. I wouldn't just go ham in all different directions. So the gist here is still to know that 20% of our efforts generate 80% of our successful results. But there's still a portion of these 20% that I've found, at least, that carries the most weight. Like it could be one type of design style, or it could be two type of design styles, or three. Or it could be like specific niches that you're doing everything in, or a specific type of niche like that you're doing super well in. Always go heavily into the thing that works to find, because it saves you so much time and it makes everything so much easier. And you can really even see it visually here in Amazon merch, since 4% of my total products online on the Amazon platform has actually garnered any sales, which is just crazy to think about. And it's those 4% that actually carries me. It's those 4% that garners me. Amazon has been my side business apart from Etsy, which has been my main business. But I mean, those 4%, just for perspective, gives me about $1,500 to $3,000 each and every month. Just keep that in mind. So the 4% can be like, if I'd focus on it, it could be 6 figures in profits, these 4%, which makes it so important to always focus on the 80-20 rule. But the main thing that always carries our stores is always going to be the designs. So it's always going to be the most important part, no matter how we spin it. So if you want to learn more about that, I suggest watching this video right here. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.